Wasting money on cures. Forgot how to fix myself. They say that time is free. Then why is it so precious? Oh, I'll say memories in my head, like Polaroids on walls. They remind you to look ahead. Time is running out. Time is running out. Lately I've lost my track. I've sailed the deeper seas, hoping to find something to bring back better times. Oh, I'll say memories in my head, like Polaroids on walls. They remind you to look ahead. But time is running out. 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 Time is running. Time is running out. But time is running out. What if my best days are over? They can't be over. They can't be over now. Time is running out. What if my best days are over? They can't be over now. Time is running out. Time is running out. Time is running out.
Afternoon, everyone. 12:30 Thursday, and the first of 3 live sessions to help Edexcel A-Level Business students get ready for Paper 3. Can you believe it? He's back from a quite an interesting little trip away for a few days. Graham, how you doing?
I'm all right, Jim. Are you okay?
Yeah, I've at least I've not been sat by the side of the road for 12 hours waiting for the AA to arrive.
Yeah, that was
So
tough.
I hear that might have happened with you.
I've had a more productive 12 hours than sat in a car in Allendale, but there I was.
Anyway, good to see everyone, and hope half term's going okay. Have you had a chance to do a bit of relaxation, maybe a chip in and a bit of revision on subjects, any remaining exams? So I mentioned we've got 3 live streams for Edexcel, and I think really, G, the key is just a sort of gentle warm up. We're going to sort of continue to explore topics that could come up, we don't know, but just to help revise those with a clothing retail theme and a bit of a clothing retail vibe as we go. And as we go, a little bit of stuff on exam technique, but not make it too heavy. Hopefully help break up your revision. As people are joining us, shall we start with the big reveal, G?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah. So as always, there is the name of a business under the question mark, and under each number is a clue that alludes to that business. So can we have clue number 1, please, Jim? So this business was founded in 1975. So if you're sat there thinking, I know a business, but it was founded in 1974, well, good news, but it's not this business. It's not Greg's. Shall we have a look at clue number 2? It was originally called Zorba.
Huh?
It was originally called Zorba. Oh, I think someone's got it already. Someone may have. Oh, shall I have a look at clue number 3?
Let's do it. The AI system will pick out the person who's first with the correct answer in live chat.
I'm not going to try and pronounce that, so I won't, but that's who it was founded by.
What? Amancio Ortega?
Ah, It's my glasses. I need to clean my glasses. Headquarters is in Spain. First location was in Spain. Headquarters in Spain. It's a fast fashion multinational, and I think, as we've alluded to, or in the chat, it is indeed. It is Zara.
Yeah, the
Zara fast
AI
fashion.
system, all of this entire live stream now, purely random spinners, all that kind of stuff. It was Alan who was first.
Yeah.
First in the
Zara.
live chat.
Never been in. I've never been in one.
Haven't you?
No.
Not even with your ladies, the girls, shopping to pay for stuff.
No. No.
Doesn't sound like you're going anyone anytime soon. Then.
No, I won't be going in. So this is a Paper 3 live stream, and Paper 3, investigating business in a competitive environment. Just a quick overview of the paper structure. It's similar to Paper 1 and Paper 2, but with one key difference. It's still 2 hours. It's still 2 sections, but there are no 4-mark questions in Paper 3. The 2 4-mark questions have been replaced by 1 8-mark question. So there are no standalone calculation questions. You may get a calculation as part of a 12 marker or a 20 marker, but there are no standalone calculation questions or standalone explain questions. We've just got an 8-mark question in each section. Now, as you will be familiar with, there is a pre-release context, and the questions are based around this context. You will be provided with extracts in the exam paper, but it will be useful to have an overview of, the market. And this year, the market is the clothing, retail, and manufacturing industry or market. And we've been given a list of bullets there. So the pre-release, Jim, came out around about November. It might have been end of November, early December. I can't remember. It was the November, December time.
30th of November from memory.
Okay, so by having a look at the bullets, it's possible to pick out some topics that may be examined. So we've got forms of business in the UK clothing market. So forms of business could include partnerships, sole traders, limited companies, franchising. We've got global clothing manufacturing locations. You may get a question around, 2 locations, assessment of a country as a production locations in the specification. You've got the impact of global clothing multinationals, financial performance planning and decisions. So, cash flow, break even. Critical path analysis, maybe that's a decision-making tool. We've got business growth in UK clothing retailers, so be familiar with the benefits and downsides of growth. Entrepreneurs in UK clothing retailers, so there may be something around about the characteristics of an entrepreneur or the role of an entrepreneur. And we've got distribution methods. So I would be, at this stage, I would have an awareness. I would make myself familiar with the big themes in the clothing industry. And that will allow you to use language in your answer that is in context. But of course, you'll be given extracts in the paper, as like Paper 1 and Paper 2, and you need to apply your answers to those extracts. But if you can bring in, if you can do any, you can still, you can do, but it is useful to have an awareness of the industry. But in terms of facts and stats about each business, not really, but it'd be useful to have a look at like what are the big things happening in the clothing industry, things like ethics, fast fashion, sustainability, things like that. So that's the pre-release, and that's been out several months now, and it is really useful as a sort of revision tool to think, actually, there's the bullets, this is what may come up, and revising those and make sure you can apply those concepts in the context of the clothing, retail, and manufacturing industry. Okay, so should we have a look at some, should we do some MCQs?
MCQs, and also I think they have a nice clothing industry vibe, don't they? So I'll do the first one. In 2023, Next, one of the largest clothing retailers in the UK, completed a takeover. £115 million they paid to take over Fatface. So what is that? So some combination of integration and types of growth. Is it horizontal integration and inorganic growth, or some other combination? Obviously, the answer is either A, B, C, or D. We know there aren't any MCQs in Edexcel, but it's a good way of starting to cover some of the topic areas that Graham just mentioned there. So most people are being particularly quick on this one. And I would say if Charlotte and Dream Boy and Lina are correct, they've said A. Let's have a look at the answer. It is indeed A. Yeah, so let's just go through why that is. It's really important, be a theme of this and subsequent sessions, to be absolutely on top of your knowledge and understanding It opens the door to all the higher marks. So it's horizontal integration in the sense that in terms of the supply chain, Next, which is a retailer, is buying another retailer. So they're both at the same stage of the supply chain. So that's why it's horizontal. And it's a takeover. So that's an example of inorganic growth. So the answer is A. Next question, G.
Okay, and remember, business growth was on the pre-release. There was a question there, Jim, in the chat window about can topics that came up in paper 1 and paper 2 still come up in paper 3? Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's happened before. Exchange rates appeared on paper 2 and paper 3, I think, last year. So
yeah, if you look at our topic tracker for Edexcel, there's quite a few topics, aren't there? That maybe appear paper 1 and then paper 3 and
could come up. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't. We'd be foolish to guess.
We don't know. So here we've got another question under MCQ relating to business planning, break even. So a clothes shop negotiates a 10% rent decrease with its landlord. All other things remaining unchanged. This will lead to, is it A, is it B, is it C, is it D? So this tests your knowledge and understanding of break even and margin of safety. So you may get a question maybe on assess the value of break even to a clothing retailer such as Primark, for example. So you may be asked to calculate break even as part of maybe a 12 mark or 20 mark question and use the results of that in your answer. So what do we think? Is it A, is it B? Is it C? Is it D? And we seem to be on point today, Jim, don't we?
Definitely, yeah.
We seem to be on point. So should we have a look at that? Yeah, it is. It is, of course. So our fixed costs reduce, which means break-even point lowers, and therefore that increases the margin of safety as long as output remains the same. And of course, the stem of the question did say all things remaining unchanged. So remember the formula for break-even is fixed costs divided by contribution per unit. Contribution per unit being selling price per unit minus variable cost per unit. So if you reduce the fixed costs, you need to sell fewer units to contribute towards covering those fixed costs. So break-even will fall, but the margin of safety will increase. That's good news for the business.
Big issue for retailers, isn't it? Clothing retailers, rent is a huge part of their costs, particularly their fixed costs. It's not cheap, is it? Renting space in the likes of Westfield, White City, and other places.
No.
Cheaper shopping centres are available, of course. So here we've got a clothing manufacturer. So moving away from a retailer, now we're moving down the supply chain or earlier into the supply chain. A clothing manufacturer is considering removing layers of its hierarchy to change its organizational structure from tall to flat. So there's a consequence of that, if achieved, when achieved. Is it a longer chain of command and a wider span of control, or some other combination of something happening to the chain of command, something happening to the span of control? Have a think for maybe 30 seconds. It's quite a common thing to be doing these days, isn't it? Trying to move from tall to flat structures.
Yeah.
And being aware of the benefits and drawbacks of that. And most people, I would say, Dream Boys, Anya, Harshpreet, are all going for the same one. And actually, it's the one I go for as well, but I've already seen the answers. So it is indeed C. So well done to everybody else, not me, because you were working it out. So if we move from a tall to a flat structure, that means there are fewer chains in the chain of command, isn't it? It's relatively easier for somebody at, I don't know, let's call it the bottom of the hierarchy, maybe an operative on a clothing production line to receive information and communication from maybe a supervisor or maybe even the manager. So it's shorter, but likely to lead to a wider span of control. Span of control are the number of people who are managed by individual managers. So the flatter the structure, in general, spans of control get wider, don't they, G?
They do. Yeah, wider span of control as delegation may increase. Yeah. So there's a question in the chat window about how to answer the questions that involve maths. Well, it depends on the question, really. So just trying to think of a previous one from my encyclopedia of past exam questions. There was a question on the chocolate industry. I think it might have been Thornton's, and the students had to assess an investment. And I'm sure it said using extract D, the average rate of return and the payback period, assess the investment. So it was telling the students really to calculate the average rate of return and the payback period, and then use the results of that to help them assess the investment. So how you would answer that is, if it's telling you to use the average rate of return in a payback period, and you need to calculate it, you would calculate that at the start of your answer, then use the results of those calculations in the body of your response to help your application analysis and evaluation. So shall I put on the next MCQ? So we've got two statements here. All you need to do is decide whether the statements are true or false. So statement one, a clothing manufacturer designs and manufactures clothes based on customers' needs and wants. This is known as market orientation. Is that true or false? A clothing manufacturer uses inspectors to check a sample of finished garments at the end of the manufacturing process. This is known as quality assurance. Are those statements true or false? All you need to do is decide whether they are true or false. So I think not everyone's going for the majority going for B, but everyone's going for B. So you'll recognize that word market orientation and product orientation. That's particularly relevant, I think, for the clothing industry. Some designer brands take a product oriented approach. They will design clothes and know it sells. Some will take a market oriented approach. I think the majority have got the correct answer, and it is indeed. Yeah, statement 2 is false because that is quality control. So be familiar with quality assurance, quality control, quality circles, TQM, Kaizen, all those concepts. So yeah, market orientation is developing products based around customers' needs and wants. The opposite, product orientation, and use of inspectors really and checking samples tells us that that is quality control, not quality assurance. Well done, everyone.
Quality control is a really big issue, isn't it, in clothing manufacture, particularly given the long lead times and the long distances that products travel. So, for example, I know garments are made in I don't know, Turkey, Morocco, Vietnam, China. If you're a UK retailer, you don't want to find out that the garments aren't up to standard when you open the box.
Yeah,
that finally gets delivered. It's important to get it right. Really big. So definitely one of those topics, isn't it? That is very closely linked.
Have a look at yeah.
Shall I have a go at this one, G? So it's another two-statement question. So we've got something happening in South Africa. They recently increased import tariffs on some lines of clothing. Does that lead to more open trade? That's either true or false. And statement 2, a clothing retailer wants to build a strong brand. A benefit of this would be reduced PED, price elasticity demand. So which of those statements are true, which are false?
So that is actually true, that about South Africa. I researched that myself. So they have actually increased. Yeah, it's true. It is true. It's not made up.
You go the extra mile, G, don't you?
I'll never stop.
Made it. No.
I wish my car went the extra mile, but I do. An extra 20 mile would have got me home.
I've told you, electric cars are the way forward, although they have long lead times. Very long leads, actually. It depends how far you want to go. Grace, Harshpreet, Lena, Sia, lots of others, just the ones I can see on the live chat because we've got hundreds of people with us have said it's C. It's C, Jim. C. Let's see. It is indeed C. So statement 1 is false, isn't it? It's actually protectionism, isn't it? If a country introduces barriers to trade, in this case, an import tariff, a tariff is like a tax that is paid on the person importing the goods. It could be maybe a retailer importing some lines of clothing. It could be a quota, which will be a limit on the volume of things that can be imported. That's reducing the openness of trade. That's making it more protectionist. So that's false. But statement 2 is true, isn't it? If you can build a brand, and of course there's lots of great examples. You only have to take a wander around a shopping centre of fashion clothing brands that have built such a strong brand and built such loyalty that actually that significantly reduces their PED, makes demand less sensitive to price. And I think we covered that a lot in our Grey Booster workshops, didn't we, G?
We did a lot of that, yeah. We did a lot of that. So we're going to do only one calculation today. So investment average rate of return. So could it come up in paper 3? Who knows? But maybe, just maybe, you're given a 20-mark question where there's 2 options. Maybe a clothing retailer wants to open up a second store or maybe invest in e-commerce. You might be given some investment appraisal data. You might have to use that to evaluate which option the business should do. So on screen, we've got the estimated net cash flows of this retailer considering opening up another store. All we'd like you to do is calculate the average rate of return. What do we think?
We've got a minute on the clock. One or two people are already in the live chat with an answer, as always, G. But let's start the clock, shall we?
Let's start the clock. Yeah, it's about time we started that. So, who knows? Tomorrow we may do payback. Who knows? Who knows what tomorrow may bring? Who knows?
Other investment appraisal techniques are available, of course.
We are.
I've had a go. And I agree with quite a few people in the live chat.
That's good. So, you add up the total net cash flows, deduct the cost of the investment, divide by the number of years, I believe. Divide by the cost of the investment again and times by 100. And that should get you. So, it is really good practice to show you're working out in your process. Remember this, you can't get a standalone calculation as part of paper 3 because there are no 4 marks, but there may be part of a 12 mark, 20 mark question. Yep, it is indeed. It is a 2-year payback, exactly.
Yeah, Lionel went for the extra bonus question.
It is a
But
fun
it is,
fact.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's
500,000 has been repaid by the time we get to the end of year 2.
Yeah, I think there was 1 or 2 incorrect answers with students who had forgot to deduct the cost of the investment, but that's no bad thing as long as you show you're working out. So the average rate of return was 45,000. I would always work it out like this. If you're given a table with the net cash flows, I would be putting in my calculator 500,000 as a minus figure first, then adding on the net cash flows. And by the time you've added that final amount in year 4, you've already deducted the cost of the investment, and then you are less likely to forget. Now remember, because there's no standalone calculations in paper 3, if you have to perform a calculation, you would need to interpret the results of that in the context of the business you're writing about. So there might be 2 investments you can compare. You might be to say whether 45% is a good average rate return in the context of the business you're writing about. Good stuff. Right, Rain, I have said that 5 times. I have said that 5 times. Hopefully the message is getting out there, but it's such a great piece of advice that I think...
I thought it was 6 times, but Ray
I thought it was more than that. Rain's playing Graham Bingo here, ticking off the amount of times I say that. Brilliant stuff. Shall we... let's move on to some a little bit more fun. So we've got some... we've picked some topics here, completely random spinner. And all I'd like you to do is, whatever it lands on, give me 2. So if it lands on methods of production, 2 production methods. If it lands on causes of change, 2 causes of change, drawn from the specification. So can we have a look at what it's going to land on? Conditions that prompt trade, pull factors. So there are 2 on the specification, 2 pull factors. There are push factors as well, but we're after the pull factors. So we should know the push factors. The push factors are saturated markets and competition. So they sort of drive businesses to another country, where pull factors that pull businesses into a country. So what do we think? What do we think? So straight away, lots of great answers coming in. Lots of great answers coming in. Yeah, and I think that's it, isn't it? I think that's pull factors. So, when we're looking at the bullet points on the pre-release, it does state about, global manufacturing locations. So it would be wise to be familiar with that area of the specification, the factors that influence a business's decision to locate or produce in another country. So that's theme 4. So, economies of scale and risk spreading. Should we have a look at what we had?
Yep. I'm just picking out just literally 3 or 4 of the answers that came in, but there were many, many more.
Brilliant. Great stuff. Yeah, so opposite is push, which I mentioned earlier. I won't say that again. But push and pull factors. Should we have a look at the next one?
That's got to be a really important one, isn't it, in terms of factors influencing locations of
economies
production.
Of scale, yeah, and risk
That must
spreading.
be a reason why China is it about 32% of global clothing manufacture still?
Yeah.
Phenomenal capacity, low unit costs.
It would be handy, and this is random, but it would be handy if it landed on the factors a business considers when choosing a country as a production location, given the
We don't
production
know.
location? We don't know.
Could do, couldn't it? But this because this totally random spinner is now sponsored by our favourite food on the go brand. We don't know, do we? We'd be foolish to guess.
Yeah.
Let's have a look.
Yeah, let's see what it is.
Oh, that's clever. The way pull factors has been greyed out. That must mean that the AI means it can't land on that.
Can't.
Ooh.
Oh, it's methods of production this time. So, methods of production. Now, this ties in with, because the pre-release talks about manufacturing industries. Could there be a question about the production method of a certain clothing manufacturer? Who knows? Can we list two? There are more than two. Methods of production. So, not a very difficult one, but remember, you would need to assess the value of one of these, or the impact, or maybe moving from one to the other, maybe. Yeah, so I think we've all got, and it's really important to be on top of your knowledge and understanding. So we had, I think everyone's got that, haven't we? Job, batch, floor, and sell. You'd probably, traditionally, so some clothing made, floor production. Lean production's more of an all-encompassing method about about buffer stock and just in time, as opposed to a specific method of producing the clothes.
Job production, in clothing, I would associate with Savile Row tailors, and they're like where they take your measurements, personalize the garment to fit your particular style and dimensions. For me, a lean waist and broad shoulders.
Definitely.
And then they make the garment directly for you, don't they?
Lork shoes as well. I think Lork make their brogues. A lot of them are still handmade.
Wow.
Handmade. Okay.
Should we give the totally random spinner sponsored by Greg's another spin?
Yeah.
What do you think? Surely it can't be factors to consider when assessing.
Would you
believe it?
Would you believe it? So there are
There's quite
4
a
or
few
5.
of these there, aren't there? Quite a few of these from memory on the specification.
The 4 or 5. I think.
Let's put some of them as they come up into the live chat window. Obviously, we can't get everybody on the screen, but we'll do our best to get.
Yeah. Now, obviously, anything you write, if it's relevant to the question, should get credit. But really, that the pre-release there is to guide you as to areas to research and look at, and so we really should be familiar with some of the factors. You might be asked to assess. Maybe you might be given an extract where there's a business recently located in China, and maybe assess whether the reason for that was one of those. Assess the importance of proximity to market, for example. So you can see how these questions may be phrased based on the specification and your knowledge and understanding. Should we have a look at what we had as a long list? So that's what's in the specification, really. Cost of production, skills and availability of labour, infrastructure, trade block location, government incentives, ease of doing business, political stability, natural resources, and the likely return on investment. That's what's in the specification as the factors that businesses may consider when deciding where to locate in order to produce their clothing. And so it does lend itself nice to the clothing manufacturing industry, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think that might be the last one of those, Jim.
No, one more bonus.
Is there one more?
And because it's this, because we're not in charge of the spinner anymore, are we? It's there's nothing we can do about it, unless it's going to land on the same one. Surely not.
Causes of change. So what do we think? Answers starting to come in. Yeah, transformational leadership's a good one. Transformational leadership. New ownership's another good one as well.
I mean, all businesses are subject to incremental small change, aren't they? But transformational leadership usually leads to transformational disruptive change, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think, it's really good here. Some really good stuff coming through. Shall we have a a reveal of what we had.
Jordan and others making reference to the pestle model, which is a nice way of identifying the different categories of external change, external influence. I like Matilda's as well there, changing corporate culture, which is often associated with transformational leadership or change in leadership too.
Yeah, often the culture comes after someone wants to try and change the culture, doesn't it, rather than the culture causing change. So, but the two can be intrinsically linked. So we got changes in organizational size. Often that's a key cause of change. When a business grows, change is inherently necessary. Maybe the business is performing poorly, therefore change is necessary. Maybe the need to think of Chelsea Football Club. Obviously, poor business according to the owners, sack the manager. So maybe getting new ownership in or transformation leadership. So you might get a question on one of those individuals specifically, or you might get a question on causes of change. So they are what's on the specification.
I heard somewhere, I don't know where I read it over the weekend, Graham, that Sunderland is the most democratic football club in the world. Do you know why that is?
No.
Because everyone gets a chance to be manager.
That's true. We've got Will Still coming. Will still be interested.
Should we finish off with our 8-mark questions?
Yeah.
I think we're going to look at a little example that way as well.
Yeah. Not a worked answer, just some for and against. But 8-mark questions. So in paper 3, there will be 2, one in the first section, one in the second section. The 8-mark questions don't need to support a judgment, but your answer must be balanced. They will always ask you to assess 2. So that could be assessed to benefits, to impacts, to effects. So you don't need a judgment at the end, but you must provide a balanced response. So if you're asked to assess 2, you must provide counter arguments to the points you are making to help you secure all 8 marks. And there's a suggested structure really on the next slide. So we got assess 2 benefits of break-even analysis to a clothing retailer such as Primark. One way you could structure that is analyze 1 benefit, then balance that because we're assessing it with maybe however why it may not be a benefit. Then we'd have another benefit of break-even analysis because it's asking us for 2. Then we'd balance that again because we're being asked to assess 2. Don't give one-sided responses. Make sure you've got 2 points, both with counter-arguments. You don't need a supported judgment.
And the scale of those counter-arguments, Cheese, because it's not a 4-paragraph structure, is it? Not 4 chunky paragraphs. It's balanced, isn't it? So
there's got to be some balance there. It's got to be applied, and in context, change the reasoning there. But make sure each of your points are balanced.
That balance could come in as a separate line, or it could come as a line as part of the first argument, couldn't it? As long as there's some balance.
A good way of breaking it up is use the words however. It may not be a benefit because.
There we go. Grace is sorting it.
Something like that. But what you need to be do is guided by your teachers who know you far better than just had a pop up there. I'll get rid of that. So we're going to do a quick case study. AM Clothing, which is a UK clothing manufacturer known for producing high quality garments. Due to increased demand, they plan to open a new factory employing 80 new staff. They are considering critical path analysis to help manage the opening of the new factory. So what I'd like you to do is, I think this question going to pop up. Just in the chat window, what are the benefits and downsides of using CPA to manage the opening of the new factory? So you could get a question that says 2 benefits to AM Clothing of, using CPA to when managing the opening of the new factory. So what do we think? If it says assess the benefits, then you need 2 benefits and 2 reasons why they're not benefits, because we're assessing the benefits in that case. So in here, if you're asked to assess 2 benefits of CPA to AM Clothing, we'd want a benefit, then a counter argument, and another benefit and another counter argument. So starting to come, it's a difficult question this, because CPA is a lot is taught drawing and filling in the nodes and things, but it's obviously we need to be familiar with the pros and cons of it as a planning tool, really, because that's what it is, a planning tool. So working out the best time scale for a project, you can measure earliest and latest start times to help organize resources and labor effectively. And that's important, isn't it? And there's some application we could pull on within the case study there, because it talks about employing 80 new staff. So maybe, by planning out the different activities, we don't need to recruit the 80 staff straight away. Maybe they need to be recruited in 6, 7, 8 weeks down the line. Yeah, that's a good point there. And it is, and that is one of the criticisms of critical path. It basically focuses on duration. Now, if you're saying this is going to take 6 weeks and you're tied to that, that could compromise quality. Maybe, maybe the business is going to give recruiting or employing 80 new staff a month. That's going to be a rush. That could impact on quality. Good. So it's important to remember that it's a planning tool. Really, but these processes need to be managed. Just because there's an activity says 8 weeks, that needs to be managed. Should we have a look at some points that we had, some for and against? So if it was an 8-mark question, and I'm not saying this is how much you would need to write, we've just we've summarized it on screen. So we've got a benefit here, helps identify the duration and therefore of key activities, and therefore the critical path. So this can allow them to prioritize tasks crucial for the factory's opening, such as the recruitment of 80 new staff. This can help ensure they can, manufacture the additional clothing it needs to meet the increased demand. So recognizing that CPA is about activities and critical path. However, some balance, focusing on the timing of each activity could be at the expense of ensuring each activity is carried out properly. So maybe recruitment and training may be rushed to fit, say, a certain deadline, a duration. That could result in lower quality clothing. If this was assessed 2 benefits, obviously would need another one. Now, a lot of students, this goes under the radar a bit, and it's really important for CPA. It can help a business manage its working capital and its cash flow more effectively. For example, by creating a timeline of all the activities, we can decide or find out when the production line will be operational. This could mean that the business could delay maybe the purchase of equipment such as sewing machines until they are needed rather than buying them from the outset, therefore tying capital up too quickly. Good point there, Charlotte, about unforeseen events. These are all durations, in a dynamic market. They may be inaccurate. Shall I have a look at our counter argument here? And this is Charlotte's point. Works on the assumption that the durations of the activities are fixed. Some activities may take longer than expected. So if this business says we're going to give 8 weeks to source the sewing machines, and it takes 10, that could delay the opening of the new factory, which could result in them being unable to meet the increase in demand for additional clothing. So that's really 2 benefits and 2 downsides. A benefit, a counter, a benefit and a counter. Obviously, we've squeezed it in to the screen, but you can see how that works. I think that concludes it, Jim. Some great answers. Oh, you've gone silent, Jim. You're muted.
I'm no longer muted. I was just saying one of the, I remember you saying this in the grade boosters, one of the issues with paper 3, the 8 marks, is not to over answer them.
Yeah, that's in the examiner's reports. Yeah, if you read the examiner's reports, it says a lot of students spend a long time on the 8 and 10 mark questions and don't finish the paper. Now, that can be down to exam techniques such as writing a supported judgment when the examiner's reports clearly identify that you do not need a conclusion at the end. So, time management is crucial. Great stuff. Well done, everyone. Well done.
Yeah, great advice from James here. Keep it short and precise. Answer the question, deliver the answer, and then move on. 8 marks. You want to be leaving time, don't you, for those 20 markers?
Definitely.
So we've done our first paper 3, clothing market themed session. We've got another one tomorrow, and then we'll do a little bit of a warm up before the exam later next week. Hopefully it's been useful.
Q&A.
Keep going. Keep dipping in and out of your revision. Hopefully your other subjects are going well too, and it won't be long before you are finished and looking forward to a summer. And it's going to be a warm, hot, sunny summer of doing next to nothing whilst we wait for autumn to arrive. But if you've enjoyed the session, give it a like, and maybe we'll catch you for our session. I think it's the same time tomorrow, isn't it, G?
It is, yeah, 12:30.
12:30. So have a good afternoon, a good evening, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. Cheers.